Hi, welcome to the Work Smarter, Not Harder podcast series. This series is intended for those of you who are engaging in determining the success of your initiatives. This is episode 3 of a series of podcasts. I am Colleen Paplow with Data Research and Accountability, and I'm joined today by my colleague and co-host, Anissa Ray. Anissa, will you say hi to our listeners?
Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here.
Today, we're also joined by our guest, Velinda Prince from Special Education Services. We'd like to talk to Velinda today about her experiences working with data to find needs. Velinda, will you say hello to our listeners and tell them what you do within Special Education Department?
Hello, listeners. I support teams within Special Education Services on a variety of data projects, and I also have the pleasure of serving as a collaborative partner with several teams and departments throughout Central Services in response to our district's cohesive work to support students of all abilities. I serve as a core team member on a couple of different Central Services teams. We're responsible for strategic planning around standard treatment protocol, attendance policies, behavioral health evaluation, and student engagement, as well as implementation and evaluation of other district initiatives. I support critical thinking, as well as accuracy and efficiency in data compilation, analysis, and evaluation. And I typically focus on proactive measures, including recognizing and eliminating potential barriers. So I'm often requested as a consultative support for various district leaders regarding the effective use of their data, potential implications based on the analysis of their data, efficient protocols for data monitoring, correlative impact, and program evaluation. And of course, it's always a pleasure to talk data with you both.
Thanks, Velinda. It certainly sounds like you work very hard for our district. So I'm really excited to talk with you today about how you use data to identify some of the needs we must address to make improvements. I'm really sure our conversation will help others see how important data are for getting a clear picture of a need and showing us where to focus our efforts and target resources. So can you begin by telling us a little bit about how your role within the special education department facilitates data use?
Because my role includes database proactive planning, district level problem solving and evaluation, and specific professional development within these areas, I provide a good deal of collaboration and consultative assistance around implementation of data-driven strategies to eliminate disproportionality as measured by key metrics, including Coordinated Early Intervening Services, or CEIS data, the disproportionality data, which provides specific data many principals have begun using in their school improvement plans, critical trends in the reading proficiency data for our African American males within our district, as well as other data annually compiled, analyzed, and uploaded into a web-based platform I designed called Glimpse. I'm excited to say that this fall marks the 6th year of Glimpse, which has always been housed securely on our servers, accessible by WCPSS district leaders. I also support specific aspects of organizational leadership with design, development, and use of systematic analysis and synthesis of data to promote continuous improvement of our systems and operations. My work facilitates supportive accountability as we continue to examine, strengthen, and reinforce our district's knowledge and application of evidence-based deliberate actions with progress monitoring, ultimately to provide a path toward positive, relevant, and equitable post-secondary outcomes for all students, regardless of demographics.
Well, that certainly is a lot. Can you tell me a little bit more about one of these areas in which you use data to uncover a need?
Sure. Several examples come to mind this time of year. One is our district's Language Live implementation I designed in its infancy and led several years ago based on uncovering the need for a more systematic method of instruction to support high school students across the district who had not yet mastered foundational concepts in literacy. So this systematic approach needed to have evidence of engaging and accelerating high school students with disabilities toward grade level proficiency in literacy when implemented with fidelity. So this need was uncovered due to planning, researching, compiling, and analyzing several district-wide metrics, some of which included high school student performance data for general curriculum students and students with disabilities within the general curriculum, mastery of relevant IEP goals, analysis of student engagement data, grade level performance in required core courses, retention data, reading proficiency data, and synthesizing common attributes of high school students who are struggling with the general curriculum. As I tactically analyzed district-wide student data, my research also included stakeholder input from regular ed high school teachers, special ed high school teachers, middle school teachers, and of course, many of our high school principals. And this collaborative effort led to the creation of a new course with a uniform course code and implementation rollout for the high school reading class. Now, based on data over the years, the district has used that high school implementation as a model to develop the middle school version.
Thanks so much for that information. It sounds like all of that was very important for our district. Do you think the people you did this work for really appreciated having this data available to them to help them make decisions?
Most definitely. We heard from many teachers. And when I was working with the project, and this project has since, like I said, moved under different leadership at this point. But when I was working with the project, I constantly had folks reach out to say thank you, to ask questions, which is something I love. I love it when people ask questions. And also to share successes, which is the other thing that I love. And so I received information from students based on their success with the program in the classroom, as well as teachers.
Well, it sounds like all of that was very useful. I wonder how that helped some of them achieve their goals. Do you have any idea?
I did receive a specific letter from a student that I used to have hanging in my office. And the student basically talked about how, all of this work was being done at the central services level. But of course, it's being done for our most valuable stakeholders, which would be our schools, our principals, and our students. So to receive this letter from the student saying that because of this systematic instruction, she was able to better access and make progress in her general curriculum courses, which was our desired outcome.
Well, that sounds really good. It's very inspiring to hear how our work looking at data can help others achieve their goals, which is really the whole point of what we do. So, let me ask you, how do you think examining data to find and assess needs has been valuable to you in your work?
Well, I highly value proactive planning, accuracy, productivity, effectiveness, and efficient use of time as keys to successfully meeting desired outcomes. So, examining data to find and assess needs allows me and the teams I collaborate with to know that we're on the right track or that we need to make adjustments to current processes or implementation strategies in order to more effectively meet the needs of our stakeholders or to meet our project based outcomes. Not having this would be like taking a stab in the dark, and that's not an efficient use of time or our resources.
Yeah, it sounds like that's definitely important for establishing a benchmark, a place where you're starting out so you can help measure progress to see where you're going. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Determining your desired outcomes allows you to simultaneously obtain the basis for developing specific goals. So you have to assess your current status, which means you have to collect your baseline data. And this allows you to begin to measure just how far you are from your desired outcome. And with these endpoints, your baseline data and desired outcome, you can begin to strategically map where you'll need to be at key points in order to productively meet your goals. So that with progress monitoring, which just means monitoring your progress and using the data evaluation process as the basis for adjusting or maintaining your implementation strategy, will allow you to successfully reach your target.
That's a great explanation. I think that would be very valuable for the folks in our department to learn how to do that on their own. What do you think?
Absolutely. First of all, folks can't be afraid to ask questions because I consistently share with all of our colleagues that we have valuable and supportive resources within our district to facilitate using data to discover areas of need. And so if folks will begin by mapping measurable desired outcomes and baseline data, they can use that information in conjunction with research to determine what specifically needs to happen to take you from where you are to where you need to be. Measurable outcomes and ongoing progress monitoring are key in the whole process.
You're exactly right. And it's exciting to hear that you're helping your colleagues learn how to do this better, just as we are. So, what other advice would you give to our listeners who want to start using data to discover areas of need?
First of all, always ask questions. When you can ask the right questions, you can determine what it is you're looking for and what you're actually trying to do. If you're not asking questions, then you're basically just following the same thing that was always done, which is designed to get the results that you're seeing. So if you're looking for different results, you have to begin by asking questions, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Can you give us some examples of what questions we might ask?
Well, a lot of the times it really depends on what project you're working on, or if you're working, like I usually work with district-wide student data. But if you're working within a school, you're using your student population, or perhaps you're looking at individual student data. So you really want to know, where do I need to be? Where are we trying to go? And again, you want to look at where you are. And if you have difficulty understanding where you need to be, then that's when you want to pull in resources and collaborate with folks who can help you determine where should we be at the end of our work. And if you need help with determining your baseline data, you need to pull in folks who are familiar with how to evaluate and process and assess, and what type of assessment tools might be helpful in determining where you are currently. And then you want to look at incremental steps along the way that will help you get from point A to point B with enough data points, and remembering to go back and monitor and evaluate, are we moving in a trajectory that represents where we're trying to go? And if not, what steps do we need to take now?
That's exactly right. And that's why our department is here, is to help our listeners learn how to do this through our self-monitoring programs. So it's really exciting to see that we have colleagues like yourself in other departments who are working on these efforts as well.
I've had the benefit of working with you guys over the years and collaborating, that it feels like we're doing, fortunately, similar work, because that's the work that our district needs.
That's exactly right. And I think that's what we want, is our department wants others to know how to do this work as well, because we have so many programs and initiatives and needs that our small department can't evaluate everything. So it's really exciting to have others learn how to do this process successfully. And we're really excited to hear that, you're one of those folks and you're teaching others as well.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Velinda, for sharing how you use data to establish needs. I think you were very well spoken in how you described moving from the current state and the steps that it takes along the way to reach that desired goal, and having data drive each and every one of those steps. And the idea of, using that data to illuminate the needs and to really understand what our system and what our kids ultimately need to be successful, and the importance of asking questions, right? We need to step back and ask questions and make sure that we're fully clear on what that need is before we proceed to drive towards our desired state. So to Anissa's point, I think it's wonderful that you're out there working through the special education department doing similar capacity building work, supporting others to use data so that decisions are made and driven by information that we have access to. So that is exciting work. And we really do appreciate your role in that, and you coming and talking to our listeners today.
Thank you so much. It's, like I said, always a pleasure to talk data with you all and to support our district at large. Having data for the sake of having data is not our goal. Having data for effective use and to move us from point A to point B and ultimately to our desired outcome, that's our goal. So I'm happy to support that effort.
Excellent. I do want to remind our listeners that we'll have any resources attached to our show notes, and we'll also have additional episodes coming up. And in our next episode, we're going to be joined by another invited guest, and we will be talking with that guest about how to use data to measure goals. So it'll extend on the conversation today. Thank you all for participating. Thank you, Anissa and Velinda.
Thanks a lot, Colleen. Thank you, Velinda, for talking with us today. That was great.
Thank you.